Okay, it's a new year. I've got a new work schedule. It's been going great this week. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Okay, so first up, the first changes. This is kind of a general change across the board. I changed the text size and added some shadowing and outlining to them so you can actually read them better. They're still fairly hard to see because of this white background here, which is just a placeholder. It's going to have a background thing like this that I need to still make. I have to make a different ratio size PNG for these ones because they're a little bit too wide or long for the ones that I've made. And then I also have just some coloring and text changes on these, and they stay colored while you change, and then just putting backgrounds on all the buttons throughout all this stuff. Alright, so another change here is actually with the mage class. So picking mage, it actually changes which wand you start with depending on which kingdom you choose. So here I've chosen the death, so I have the death wand. If I go back to the kingdom selection and choose earth, there's a bug here where it doesn't update this stuff. So you just have to switch. And now it's the earth wand because I chose the earth kingdom. So the wands do have different stats and different kind of abilities to them depending on which kingdom they're from. So the earth wand's a little bit different than the death wand. They both have the same like attack structure, but they do slightly different things. For some reason inside the game, I don't know why this icon is showing up. I must have a gizmo turned on somehow by accident. But try to ignore that. Just kind of going through some of the text changes. Nothing crazy here. Uh, Everything looks basically the same. I'll go over some of this stuff in a second, but just changed some of the screens. This I've cleaned up a little bit the armor, weapon, spell, and consumable screens and given them some backgrounds. It's still a little bit difficult to read and seems a little condensed, so I might be changing a few things about this. In particular, what I've been thinking about is moving the description to a button, and then you click a button and it pops up an info screen. But I'll see how I go about that. This is the armor screen, the spells, and then the consumables. So they all look basically the same. They have a slightly different lookout depending on which one it is, but the general layout is somewhat similar throughout them all. So in the weapon screen here, you probably noticed that while I was cycling through stuff showing off the text, the original screen here getting into the weapons. So going into the weapon screen actually shows you these empty buttons at the moment. These are just going to be the different categories of stuff. So as you can see down here, it's showing which category you're going into while you hover over the button. Going into those shows only those specific type of weapons. So you can look at just your wands, just your axes, so on and so forth. It's a little funky, and I need to continue working on it. This icon actually shows that it is equipped, so I have the wand equipped right now. If I click this button, I can go back to the selection, type selection, and I also have a dagger in here called Identity Crisis. So if I click this one, changes all the, it updates all the information, and I can equip it, and it shows this. This will actually be a highlighting around the button, but at the moment I have it completely backwards and it's not working properly. In addition to highlighting for which weapon you have equipped, I have also added in armor highlighting. So I've changed the structure of how each armor group looks. I also had a couple bugs that were not making them show up properly. Everything appears to be working mostly correctly now. There are some issues. The general way this works, and I'll actually pick up some items here that I have laying around. So this is a bunch of set pieces, and so I have this little background thing for the item pickup. So the top here is what the item is. Well, if I picked an item up, is the item and the type below. So going into armor, I can see now that I have picked up all of the hide set. Anything I haven't picked up in the set is kind of this grayed out thing. So it disables the button. You can't click on it. I don't have these pieces. There is a bug still here with this, obviously, but anyway, going into any of these, obviously these need to have the icons to actually see which one's which. This is the head, I think legs, shoulders, chest, arms, I don't even know what the order is. But as you can see up here, this little highlight around, so the highlight around the button signifies that you have that piece equipped, and then this connection is actually showing which pieces you have equipped in conjunction with each other. The point of that, I will show here, so if I equip the helmet of the hide, it switches over to the hide from the silk, and anything that you change switches over. These highlights function so that you can very quickly see which items in the set you have equipped, and then once you have all of them equipped, it shows that the set bonus is active. Each armor set has a set bonus for when you're wearing all of the pieces of that set at once. They vary from giving abilities to passives to just those two things. I do need to add in somewhere what the set is for every item, and I'm not entirely sure where to put that yet. So I'm going to try and find a spot to put that. It's probably going to involve the redistributing of the item descriptions here and moving this somewhere else, and so that I can put in some set bonus information there. Okay, so the final thing that I worked on is actually something I'm going to have to show in the Unity editor because I haven't hooked it all up to actually animate properly while you're in the game yet. So this is actually the spellbook animation. So you can see up here the different schools of, or classes, I guess, elements, I should probably call them, name of the game, different elements of each spell, like school. So clicking on these, as I've shown before, goes to the different pages of all fire spells, all death spells, so on and so forth. The idea is that it will be switching pages. So I click on death. If I was on fire, it would turn a page this way. If I was on fire and I turned to death, it would turn a page this way. So I've set up the animations for that. So this is turning the page to the right, and then just reversed, obviously, for the right. Turning to the left. Something looks very strange about turning to the left. I'm not really sure why, but I'm going to fiddle around with it. I'm probably going to either add some frames or make the entire thing a little bit faster. But the gist is there, so I'm really actually very happy with this. It took a very long time to do, but I really like how it turned out. And now the most enjoyable part of the video is drawing in pretty pictures. So some of the things that I'm going to be working on are this week actually scripts. And what I mean by that is actual dialogue. Real scripts writing out the dialogue for the entire story. And what happens. I'm going to be working on the beginning script for, there are 6 different starting positions essentially for the character to start in, depending on which kingdom they select. If you choose the Fire Kingdom, you're going to have a slightly different starting story than the person that starts in the Life Kingdom. So the next thing that I'm going to be working on after the scripts, and something I figured I'd just toss into this video because it's applicable to the scripts, is the cinematic system. I think I've talked about the cinematic system in previous videos, but essentially the way it's going to work is there will be text either at the bottom or the top. It might alternate, it might be static, but each piece of a cinematic, and when I say cinematic, I really mean pictures. So the way the cinematics are going to work is there's going to be text explaining whatever the cinematic piece screen is about. The text will fade away, and then images will pop up. So, for instance, if I was doing a fight scene, and I was explaining some characters fighting in the lore, some text would pop up, and some pictures would pop up, either simultaneously or different. This looks like a funny face. So the way it works is either text pops up, fades away, and then pictures, or things pop up simultaneously. Sometimes it can be text and picture, only pictures, just text, yada yada yada, any combination of the above. But the idea behind the system was to make it so that there are these static pictures, and then they have a timer on them. So as the timer is going along here, this picture is moving. So maybe it starts over here right now, and then at the end of its timer, it moves over to here. For this example with two pictures of some things fighting from the lore, this one would move over to here, and then they would end right next to each other, and I could have like a little screen flash once they actually reach each other, and that would just signify that they're battling. So something else that I had mentioned I'm going to be working on is changing some of the the weapon, armor, and spell and item description area layouts. So every inventory screen has this little box on the right, as you'd seen before, explaining everything about the item that you're looking at. So if it's a weapon, it says all of the stats of the weapon, armor, so on and so forth. There's most of the information in each box, so there's boxes. The layout varies a little bit from screen to screen, but the layout's fairly similar. So there's some bullet points over here, a button to equip or use an item, a few more bullet points or stat requirements are usually right here, and then like an image and the name at the top. In this corner is the item descriptions. Now, all of these pieces are fairly straightforward, and they're very few words. They're kind of bullet points, almost. And they're fairly easy to read. This is just sentences in like a paragraph, basically, and it draws a lot of attention because it is so big and so jam-packed. It just kind of takes your attention away from everything else. So what I'd like to try and do is figure out a way to either put this somewhere else behind a button that pops up another screen, or condense it somehow so that I can get a little bit of attention moved away from this area and maybe move some stuff around so that it's even more spread out. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do that yet, so that's something that I'm going to be working on as well. And that is everything it looks like from my notes from this week. So I think the takeaway is going to be that next week is going to be mostly script, drawing dialogue out for a lot of the starting stuff for the game, and trying to plug it into some of the cinematic things. And then I also have quite a few bug fixes to do. There's a bunch of things that are just kind of acting wonky, especially with the spell screen, which has been a major pain in the butt. Many weeks running. There's just a lot of stuff that happens in that one screen. I think it's mostly working, so it's small stuff. Hopefully I'll be able to get all of the dialogue stuff done. I am usually fairly quick at writing stuff, so I'm hoping I can start plugging that into the cinematic things and actually show that off. I don't think I've actually had a chance to show that off yet. I had gotten it working and then kind of switched gears to some other stuff, but I haven't actually put any of the like dialogue stuff into it or pictures or anything. But yeah, so next week I should have some like script stuff to show off. I'm not entirely sure how I'm going to do that. I don't really want to just put a script up in front of the page, but or in front of the camera, but we'll see. I don't know. That's what's coming next week. Don't worry about it.